everyone, and welcome to the Ecotour's Adventures Wildlife Weekly Roundup. We're so glad that you could join us here in Jackson Hole. I'm your host, Tenley Thompson, and we've got some fantastic videos to show you this week of all the things that have been going on here in Jackson Hole. First off, however, our Ecotour's owner Taylor has some very exciting news to share.
Hi, Taylor Phillips here with Ecotour Adventures in Jackson Hole, Wyoming, and I'm super excited that Yellowstone and Grand Teton National Parks are open for you to come and enjoy. We're taking the necessary precautions to keep you and our guides safe as we provide memorable experiences through your national parks. So we look forward to seeing you soon. Give us a call today.
Great news. So our guides have been out and about this week since Monday in Jackson Hole and Yellowstone National Park, filming all the fun and exciting things that are going on in the valley. And the first and most exciting news we have to share came to us from Monday morning. And it's that 399, the matriarch of the Tetons, the most famous grizzly bear in the world, has not one cub, not two new cubs coming out of hibernation, but 4 brand new little cubs. And Ecotour's guide, Maddie, can't wait to tell you about it.
Howdy folks, it's Maddie with Jackson Hole Ecotour Adventures, and beautiful day here in the GYE, but I want to talk about yesterday. Yesterday was day 1 of Grand Teton National Park opening up in 2020, and we were not disappointed. Grizzly bear, 399, emerges from hibernation about 5 months with 4, like Bobby or coys. Unbelievable. This great day, a most memorable day, and a much needed day for all of us to get out and experience some wildlife. And we were not disappointed, my gosh. It was amazing.
So, some incredibly exciting news this week out of Grand Teton National Park. Now, this is the time of year, grizzly bear breeding season, when we first start to see the female bears bringing fresh cubs down into the valley floor and young eligible females finding large males to mate with. It's a very exciting time of year. We'll continue to keep you posted on Grizzly Bear 399 and her quadruplets, but I went out last night I was looking for 399 and found a surprise instead, something I had not seen yet this year. Now this is not Grizzly Bear 399, but it sure looks like a younger version than her. So that and the double red ear tags that this bear is sporting make me believe that this is actually one of 399's former cubs, now a subadult male between 3 and 4 years old, who's now on their own and foraging for spring bulbs and grasses, just like her mother tends to do. In addition to all of this, this bear's also being courted by a male who's been seen in the area, and so we may have cubs from this bear over the coming years, which would be very exciting to see. Now, it surprises a lot of my guests when they find out that a lot of grizzlies eat a lot of vegetation. It's about 80% of their diet every year, and generally speaking, these spring bulbs and grasses are some of their only options until the elk calves are born. And those elk calves are a great resource for those bears, but they take a lot of skill to acquire. Now, the good news is if this is a 399 cub, it's in good company, which is to say 399 is a masterful teacher of her cubs in hunting elk calves. So hopefully this bear will be well set up for the future, and as conditions allow, will transition from this vegetarian diet of early spring into a little bit of meat supplementation later on in the year. So that's pretty exciting news as well. I had a really good time last night watching that bear. It was a lot of fun, and we've got so much bear activity going on in the valley, so we'll continue to keep you updated with that. But in the meantime, it's also a baby animal extravaganza out there. EcoGuides Taylor and EcoGuides Kirk actually went out and got some great footage of some baby foxes this week. So let's check in with them.
Hey guys, Really fun checking out this fox den here. It's a great time of year to find fox because they'll be active throughout the day when a mother, a vixen, is looking to support 5 pups like this. But typically they could be nocturnal or crepuscular, meaning only active in the early mornings or the later evenings. So it's pretty fun to watch a den like this right now. But fox, they might be in your own backyard denning. They live all over the place. They're the most widely distributed terrestrial meat eater in the world. So they're great generalists. They could eat a lot of different things and live in a lot of different places. But right now here in Jackson, checking out this den, we see 5 pups. We see the vixen, the mother, but we don't see the dog presently. That would be the father. And the dog usually is around throughout the summertime, helping to raise those pups, especially going out finding food to help support that mother, support the pups. But we don't see him right now. I think that these pups might be maybe 6 weeks old, maybe even a little bit older, because they're engaging in a lot of mock fights, a lot of playful activity, mock hunting. And it's all that sort of playful activity that's going to help them hone their skills, because come summertime they're going to be joining their mother on hunts, and by August it'll be time for them to disperse and go off on their own. But for now, it's really fun to watch these fox hanging around with mom at the den site.
Now, I would be remiss, those baby foxes were spectacular, but I would be remiss if I didn't give proper credit to that picture that we just saw of Grizzly Bear 399 and her cubs, which was taken just this morning by a good friend of Ecotour's Adventures, Sue Cedarholm. So I am so sorry. Thank you, Sue. I should have given you proper credit earlier, but it does give us another chance to see those really cute and adorable cubs. So that's not too bad of a situation either. In the meantime, Ecotour's guide Taylor was out and about looking at some of the migrating animals. We're still seeing migrations occurring all over the valley this week and into the coming month. And in the meantime, these pronghorn are migrating on a long 6,000-year route called the Path of the Pronghorn.
Hello everyone. I wanted to talk about the Wyoming's Path of the Pronghorn, one of this country's longest mammal migrations. This time of the year, pronghorn antelope travel from the Red Desert in the Pinedale, Wyoming region about 170 miles all the way to Jackson Hole. They do this for a couple different reasons. One, the winter in Wyoming is a tough one, and especially in Jackson Hole, where deep snows will impede the pronghorn's movement to find winter forage. So the summering Grand Teton National Park pronghorn herd, come fall, they do make this migration over the course of 3 or 4 days south through the Gros Ventre Mountains into the Green River Valley and then into Pinedale. And then this time of the year, they're making this migration in reverse, traveling through public and private lands in a newly created protected corridor called Path of the Pronghorn. This migration has been occurring for approximately the past 6,000 years, where 300 to 400 individuals make this migration.
Now, pronghorn, as folks who've been out on tours with me know, are some of my favorite hoofed mammals in the Greater Yellowstone ecosystem. And in fact, they are the second fastest land animals on the planet. Does anybody know who the fastest land animal is on the planet? Go ahead and comment in the comment section. And while you're at it, why don't you tell us where you're watching from? We'd love to hear a little bit about what you'd like to see in these broadcasts. And we'd also like to hear a little bit about what your favorite parts were, because we take special requests. If you'd like to see something in the future, do tell us and we'll try to show it to you next week at 5:30 Mountain Time. In the meantime, that was pretty cool, but even cooler in my book was a very rare sighting of a bird that Ecotour's guide Sean and Laura actually tracked down in the Salt River in Idaho.
All right, here I am out at Idaho with Sean, our master birder.
Oh.
And this is his first time seeing a Lewis's woodpecker in the wild.
Yeah, it was a nice surprise just driving down the dirt road. Something flew across and slammed on our brakes. And we've been watching a pair for probably the last 10 minutes.
Yeah, this is unbelievable. I'm never seen anything like this before.
I'm pretty jealous. I've certainly never seen a Lewis's woodpecker before, but maybe if I go out with Sean, I might have some luck. Sean is our master birder, and he's so good at finding some of these unusual species. He's got more information for us in a video towards the end of the broadcast, talking a little bit more about how to find birds in your backyard. But another one of our great birding guides is Kirk, and he had a fantastic time with an osprey, a pair of nesting osprey on the Buffalo River this week. Let's check in with him.
Hey guys, I'm out here taking a look at the Buffalo Fork. It's a river that will eventually flow into Grand Teton Park and into the Snake River. It's a great place to come out looking for animals. Right now I found an osprey in the top of this telephone pole here on top of a platform. On these platforms they'll make their nests and return to them every year. They might be coming from as far as Mexico or Florida, someplace warm to spend the winters, and then they'll come here in the summertime. It's a great place to nest, it's a great place to find food. And along the Buffalo Fork here, there's plenty of cutthroat trout, maybe some brown trout, rainbows too. They'll serve as the main component of their diet. These osprey are probably the best fishermen around. They'll see a fish and dive down with those talons out in front of their face and snatch it out of the water, and they've got this M-shaped wing where they can, even though they're in the water, get those wings up and out and get some thrust and fly away with that fish.
Now, osprey are pretty common throughout the western United States, and the best way to see them is to look in nesting boxes and platforms that local power companies have placed near power lines to keep them from nesting on the power poles, which could unfortunately electrocute them. Here in Jackson Hole, we have dozens of these boxes. Just look up as you're driving along the side of the road for a big black and white bird, and you'll have a great opportunity to see them for yourself. Now, we also, of course, love the big fuzzy animals here at Ecotours. The birds are exciting, but we do love the big fuzzy and hoofed things. And Ecotours guide Taylor got a great view of some mountain goats south of Jackson Hole this week.
Mountain goats, an alpine species found at all elevations and even up to 13,000 to 14,000 feet above sea level. They have a cloven hoof that enables them to travel in steep terrain that exceeds 60 degrees in slope angle. So their predators, mountain lions, wolves, and others, have a hard time following them in those locations. Mountain goats were introduced in the 1970s into Idaho in the Palisade Mountains to provide an opportunity for hunters. Now, mountain goats have infiltrated into Wyoming and into Grand Teton National Park, where there are efforts underway to reduce the numbers of goats and their spread. The native Rocky Mountain bighorn sheep do share habitat, forage, winter range with goats. So with the reduction and removal of mountain goats, it's thought that the Rocky Mountain bighorn sheep will have an easier time surviving into the future.
Now, behind that mountain goat, you can just start to see a little bit of arrowleaf balsam root, my favorite wildflower, aside from shooting star, of course, if you've watched some of these videos in the past. That's out, and it's just starting to bud on the valley floor. Hopefully, maybe by mid-June, we'll see a little bit more in the wildflower action department. But back to the big, fuzzy, exciting animals. Migration is underway, and I went out last night to see what I could find and ran into quite a few of my favorite critters. First off, the elk migration is going strong. A lot of these elk are traveling up to 100 miles to get from their winter range to their summer range, and many of these animals overwintered on the National Elk Refuge or the Grovant Range to the south of Grand Teton. There's a little calf born last year. If you look carefully in this footage, you can see there's some black dots on the left. Those are moose, and some elk on the right. And hang on, we're going to zoom in here, but it's very rare. I've almost never seen interactions between these two species, particularly not a moose calf like this one who didn't have a lot of experience with elk. And so when this calf calf saw the elk on the other side of the valley, it decided to walk over and go for a visit. Now, I'll tell you what, the elk were not particularly excited to see this moose heading over with its mother. The mother moose, by the way, could have cared less that the elk were grazing anywhere near her and continued to feed pretty happily. But the calf was curious, and it went ahead and approached this herd. And you can see here, everyone's ears are back. No one is happy. Everyone's uncomfortable. A lot of these elk left the area. But this moose calf wasn't going to give up. It wanted to make some friends, some herd friends. And slowly but surely, these elk got adjusted to this moose and figured out that it probably meant no harm. By the time I left, they were actually pretty good friends. You can see the moose was grazing pretty happily. A lot of the other elk were as well, and everybody was pretty comfortable with the situation. But it was pretty phenomenal to see. Now, the bison are out and about as well, and I went out specifically to find some bison calves, and I did find 2 big brand new bison calves. You can see them smack dab in the middle of this video here. Really hard to see, really far away, but hopefully by next week we'll get you some good footage of some calves. Now, I'll tell you that bison calves typically are all born pretty quickly within a couple days of each other. So while those might be the first 2 of the season, within the next 24 to 48 hours, we'll have hundreds to see, and hopefully we'll have some better footage of baby bison for you next week. But because those were the first ones of the year, I couldn't quite wait to show you. It's pretty exciting. Anyway, we got to get back to the bird side of things. Some folks requested to get an update from Mark on some of the nesting birds that he took some footage of last week to see how things are going. So Mark went ahead and obliged us and gave us an update.
The nesting pair of red-tailed hawks are in their final stages of incubation. They've been sitting on the eggs for just over 3 weeks, so sometime in the next 4 to 6 days, we should see some active hatchlings in the nest. I'll keep you posted on that. The northern flicker pair has finally decided which cavity they're going to use for this upcoming nesting season, and they have given indications that there might be eggs already laid in the nest. I've been seeing a lot of nest exchanges where the male will fly back as the female flies out of the nest. He will then crawl into the nest to take his turn, possibly incubating eggs. I'll keep you posted. And then I was able to capture a house wren advertising the availability of his nest. Those little house wrens can really sing quite a spectacular song, and I was able to capture one up close, giving it his best, trying to advertise that his nest is open for business. So, a lot of activity going on in the forest and a lot of good updates coming from Ecotour Adventures. Thanks for watching.
So, what do you think? Do you enjoy Mark's bird updates? Would you like to see more as these eggs hatch and the young babies start to emerge? Let us know what you'd like to see in the comment section. And remember, I'll be answering your questions as a biologist at the end of the broadcast as well. So if you have questions, go ahead and start asking them, and I'll see if I can't get you guys some answers. In the meantime, have you been to Jackson Hole? What was one of your favorite experiences while you were here? And where are you watching from? Go ahead and give us a comment in the comment section. We'd love to see how far and wide this broadcast gets us. In the other news of the week, we've got a few more things that have been going on, but one of my favorite videos of the week comes to us from Ecotour's guide, Kelsey. Now, Kelsey went ahead and messed up her foot. I think she was rock climbing, I'm not exactly sure, and she's in a boot, but regardless of her being in a medical device, she decided to walk 1.5 miles back along Jenny Lake on opening day, because you can't keep a good biologist down, and she found some pretty exciting things back there. Let's check in with her.
Hey guys, Kelsey with Ecotours here. I'm out hiking around Jenny Lake right now. The park just opened for the first time today at noon, and I'm about 1.5 miles down the Jenny Lake Trail, and the whole way I've been following a bunch of moose and elk tracks. Alright, so here you can see a moose track that I've been following for a while, and this trail has been intermittently snow and nicely melted out, so I'm also in a boot, so it's a little tricky, but you can see it's Beautiful day out here. Nice marmot sighting on our hike. This one is darker in color than what I'm used to seeing. Hi there, friend.
Thanks, Kelsey. We love the enthusiasm, but please don't mess up your foot. We need you back guiding trips as soon as we can. The last thing we want to show you this week is Sean's fantastic look at some of the amazing birds we can see in our own backyards. Sean has some great ideas to how you can bring your own wildlife to your own home, as well as a look at some of the most colorful birds that we have here in Jackson Hole.
Hey everybody, this is Sean coming to you from the wilds of Wyoming, also known as my backyard. And I know a lot of our videos come from Grand Teton and Yellowstone National Park, but you don't necessarily have to be in the wilderness to draw wildlife into your yard. And as you can see behind me, I've got a feeder set up, and what I wanted to talk to you quickly today is about how to draw birds into your backyard. So something that I've done that's really simple is just put up a black oil sunflower feeder, suet cage, and new to this year, slice of orange. And by providing that food for the migratory birds and those birds that are setting up territory, you can bring a lot of wildlife into your yard. And that is also great right now since we're all stuck inside in quarantine. You might be able to see things that you never knew or never thought you'd have in your backyard. Some things to think about when you're feeding birds is if you have any big windows around, like I have here right off camera, you want to put decals up so those birds can see that decal and not fly into that window. If there's any structure, debris around your feeders, you don't want that because those domestic or feral cats can use that as cover to hunt those birds. And another thing is, we don't really have to worry about it here, but in a lot of spots, bears. And if you're putting out food source, those bears will come and feed, so maybe take your feeders in at night or don't have them out at all. And thanks, I hope those tips help. Stay safe, and thanks for watching.
How cool is that? Now, one of the more interesting things about our local backyard birds is they have a pretty diverse diet. If you want to get an easy start, just like Sean said, a little bit of black sunflower seed will take you a long way, and that suet will bring in more of your woodpeckers and nutbirds as well. So get out there, get your bird feeders filled, and see what you can find. My favorite thing to do is to put out those oranges because you're sure to bring in the western tanagers. So that's the guide videos that we have for this week, but we do have our trivia question for you this week, which is brought to us by Ecotour's guide, Maddie. Now here's how this is going to work. If you know the answer to the trivia question, go ahead and give us an answer in the comments section, and out of all of the correct answers in the comments section, we're going to pick one to win a $10 gift card at our new Ecotours Adventures online store. We started this store during the quarantine and closure so that we could 100% fund our employees' health insurance. All of the money that is raised with our online store continues to fund health insurance for our guides and office staff. So if you'd like to support us, feel free to go ahead and take a look at the store. There's some Mangelson prints, some beautiful photography. My favorite are the owl stickers, some fantastic Stio logo clothing, and all sorts of really neat things made by the guides themselves so that they can have the support they need during these difficult times. So if you know the answer to the trivia question, go ahead and comment in the comments section, what kind of bird is this? Do you know the answer? It's a really, really beautiful big one, sometimes called the Ghost of Yellowstone. Pretty rare. Some people argue maybe should be an endangered species, but beautiful and silent in flight. Let me show you one more time. What is this bird? If you know the answer, go ahead and tell us in the comments section, and we'll see if we can't get you a $10 gift card. Look at that head rotating almost all the way. They can go almost 270 degrees with their heads. So thanks, Maddie, for that great video of one of my favorite birds. Let us know in the comments section what you think this is. In the meantime, we do have a new Facebook Live broadcast that's happening tomorrow at 5:30 p.m. on May 21st. We're teaming up with the Raptor Center, the Teton Raptor Center, and their live birds to do a broadcast about the birds of Jackson Hole and how to see birds on your own. If you want to check that out, that's really going to be fun. It's going to be with Ecotour's guide Josh and some of the bird biologists over at the Raptor Center. So don't forget to tune in on that broadcast tomorrow. They have a quick message for us.
Hey guys, we hope you can join us for a partner Facebook Live with Ecotour Adventures.
All right, so don't forget to tune in on that. So that's what we have for you guys today. If you've got questions for me, go ahead and ask them in the comments section, and I'll see if I can't get you some answers live. We'll do a little bit of question and answer for a couple minutes here, and then if you've got questions after the broadcast is ended, or if you're watching it a little bit later on, go ahead and continue to ask those questions. I will continue to look at this over the next week and the broadcast, and I'll continue to answer the questions for you. We got some really fun ones last week about where one could see pronghorn in Idaho Falls, some questions about birds, some other questions about bears. People want to know where specific bears are, like Blondie, 610, 399. But let's go ahead and see what kind of questions we have this week. Hang on, let me get a chance to read some of these. Ooh, we're getting good answers for the trivia question. Let's see here. Okay, so for starters, the question is, why do bison give birth virtually all at the same time? So I mentioned earlier that bison do almost, they give birth almost all at the same time, all at once. Now, why on earth would that be useful for a prey species, if you think about it? If you have lots and lots and lots of babies all at the same time, and elk do this as well, then you're going to overwhelm predators. Any kind of animal who might think that a baby bison, sometimes called a red dog by the locals here, might be something to go ahead and go after, is going to be in for quite a reckoning. Mother bison are pretty darn aggressive when it comes to protecting their young, and they do this technique called circling the wagons, so to speak. So they put the adults on the outside and they pack the babies in the center if there's any sort of threat or animal who might be of interest. But if they give birth all at the same time, then it's basically inevitable that some of those calves are going to survive, because if you have so many prey out there that a predator becomes full after one or two, say a wolf pack is only going to be able to get a couple baby bison in the first week of them being born, then the hundreds of other bison who are born are not going to be prey items for those predators, bears, wolves, mountain lion, and the like. And so the answer is that they all give birth at the same time so that they can overwhelm predators and have a better chance that the vast majority of those calves are going to survive to live long, long lives. It's not unusual to see bison live up to 20 years in age. So those little babies that we saw earlier, they're going to have big, long lives in Grand Teton and Yellowstone. Let's see if we've got any other questions here. Ooh, more good answers. I'm impressed, guys. So some questions about osprey, and you're right. You've got it right, JC. Osprey are piscivores. That means 100% of their diet is fish. Eagles are generalists. They're opportunists. They'll eat a lot of different things. You'll actually see bald eagles eat fish, certainly, and they're pretty good at it, but they'll also eat carrion, just like a vulture, or roadkill. I've certainly seen eagles eat garbage, which is hard to say about our national bird, but they certainly will do that. We have two different species of eagle here in Jackson Hole. We've got bald eagles with the white head and tail, although they don't get that white head and tail until they're 4 years old, which can sometimes confuse people. And more rarely, we also have golden eagles present as well. Not as many of them, but there's a couple nests in the valley. If you come out on some trips with me, I'll show you maybe one or two of those nests. But the answer is how the osprey and the eagles carry their fish. And you're absolutely right. Their claws are shaped really differently. So a lot of people think that osprey are eagles. And they're not. They're not in the eagle family at all. Now, long before I was born, my birding mentors called Osprey fisher hawks. And the name was changed in the late 1970s because guess what? Osprey aren't hawks either. So they're not eagles and they're not hawks, which leads to the inevitable question of what on earth are osprey? And the short answer is nobody's really quite sure. There's a lot of debate out there, a lot of scientific papers, a lot of taxonomists having a lot of fun having some arguments about it, but they're basically their own thing. And one of the things that makes it most clear that they're neither one of those species is the shape of their claws. They've actually got this claw, I don't know if I can do it properly for you, but when they grasp fish, you're absolutely right. It's vertical in the way that they grasp those fish versus an eagle who's going to be more horizontal in his grasping pincher. So at a distance, if you're having a hard time telling perhaps a juvenile of both species apart, one of the ways you could do it with a pair of binoculars is to look, if they've got a fish, which way they're grasping it. So that was fantastic. Thanks, JC, for your comments. You're absolutely right. And I can tell we've got another big raptor lover just like me. So tune in tomorrow because they're going to have some really big birds to see then. Let's see. Oh, Laura would like to say that sometimes eagles pick off ducks or beavers. Yes, they do, which is a pretty tremendous, it's an insane thing to see. But one of the more amusing things is sometimes those ducks and beavers are too big. And I've had two experiences in my life that were pretty funny. One was a group of ducks on the Snake River who were happily hanging out, and this eagle came in from behind them in just stealth flight. It was really tremendous to see. And the eagle is so much faster than these ducks are. There were, you know, mallards happily macking about, and this eagle was coming just stealth, like whoosh, whoosh, silently like an arrow right along the edge of the water. And the ducks eventually saw it and panicked, you know, and we're freaking out and we're trying to fly away, but they were so slow, you know, they're taking off really, really slow. And below comes the eagle just coming in like an arrow and just took one of those ducks right out of the middle of the group before they even got a chance to get out of the water. It was pretty tremendous to see. Another time, I actually saw an eagle catch a fish that was too big for it, and it fell in the water, and it got soaked. And if you've ever seen a bald eagle go swimming, it's pretty hilarious. They don't swim. Their talons, of course, are not webbed. And so it took a long, long time for this eagle to make it to shore, and it was panting very, very hard. And I don't like to anthropomorphize and put human traits on animals, but boy, that eagle sure looked like it was pretty embarrassed to me. So that was pretty funny as well. Let's see if anybody else has any good questions. We've got a question about western tanagers. Now, for those of you guys that caught a chance to see Sean's video, you might have seen one of those western tanagers. The question is, are they in the valley yet this year? And of course, Sean caught some for us yesterday, right on the side of his fence with that orange. And so yes, tanagers are back in the valley. We're seeing a few now. In the next week, it's going to be just mobs of them coming through. And they're a migratory bird, so they're not actually going to stay here and nest. They're actually headed further north than here. But for the time being, we get this unbelievable bird. If you've never seen a western tanager before, the males are beautiful. They've got red heads and yellow backs, and they are stunning. And it's well worth getting a couple oranges from the store and sticking them out in your backyard and seeing what you can get. If you look closely at that video that Sean sent in, the tanager is actually picking out ants so that it can get a better look at, better taste of that orange. There were also orioles in view in Sean's video. Now, does anybody know what kind of oriole that was? Any guesses? You can always go back and take a look, I suppose. If you know the answer, go ahead and give us a comment in the comment section and we'll go from there. Let's see if we've got any more here. We've got a correct answer on what the fastest land animal on the planet was. I asked that question earlier. I said that pronghorn were the second fastest land animal on the planet and the fastest in North America. But I asked what the fastest land animal of the planet was. You guys know? The answer was correct. Elizabeth Binder told us that it is in fact the cheetah. Now, funny little thing, nobody's actually quite sure what the top speed of either species is. So at our best guess, cheetah are probably quite a bit faster than pronghorn in reality. but most of the data we have on cheetah are cheetah in captivity or in limited areas, or there's a very famous study in the 1960s where they took a half of a zebra and they tied it up to the back of a Land Rover, and they had a semi-feral cheetah chase the zebra being dragged behind the Land Rover, but the top speed of the Land Rover was 60 miles an hour. It didn't go any faster, and the cheetah very easily caught the zebra. So that doesn't mean that cheetahs can only run 60 miles an hour, right? They might be a little bit faster than that. There's some scientists that have put them at 65, 66, maybe even 70 miles an hour, although that might be a little bit extreme. Pronghorn are usually clocked in somewhere between the 45 and 50 mile an hour speed, although some people think they could be as fast as 60. Many years ago, I had an experience with a pronghorn that made me think they might be a little faster. Certainly not a scientific experiment, but I was driving near dawn on the main highway, and in the fall, every once in a while, a young pronghorn in the rut will chase cars and race cars, and I had a pronghorn try to race me, and my car couldn't go any faster than 60 miles an hour, and the pronghorn easily beat me. So I don't know if that means every pronghorn can go that fast. I don't know if my speedometer was calibrated, right? It's not a real scientific number, but boy, the short answer is they're really, really fast, and there's nothing left in North America that's going to be faster than they are. So that's pretty great too. Let's see if we've got any other questions. Sean, I like your answer of the trivia question, the lesser western canary. I'm sorry, you are incorrect, but I would like to see a lesser western canary. Somebody should draw me one and send one in. And thanks so much, everybody, for telling us where you're joining us from and all the fun things that you've seen out there. Don't be afraid to post some videos or photos. Maybe we'll feature them next week. But in the meantime, I think those are most of the questions that we had this week. If you're seeing this video later, go ahead and ask some questions in the comments and I'll get some answers for you. But it's been a pleasure spending this Wednesday with you. And thanks so much for all of the Ecotours guides who've been working so hard to give us a little bit of a couch vacation while we've been socially isolating and show us some of the spectacular things that are happening this week. I hope everyone has a fantastic week, a great weekend, a wild next week, and we'll see you next time at 5:30 on Wednesdays Mountain Time. I hope you'll join us. So long!